Good morning. It's the 12th day of January 2025. I didn't check it, about 6 degrees. It's not too cold. It's overcast, but there's a little sun coming through there. The frost is gone. Some people say they prefer the frost, that dampish weather is not good. I prefer this kind of weather where it's dry and it's still not freezing, and all my pipes now are open up and cattle can get a drink. I don't have to organise drinks or anything so for house cattle. So anyway, the thing is, just on the international news and keeping you up to date, in the last day and days of his presidency, Joe Biden has, of course, we've all feared that he would do something drastic. I feared he would drop a nuclear bomb on Moscow and start a world war and annihilate the world. He was quite capable of doing it, in my opinion. But he didn't do that now, and this is Sunday, and tomorrow week is the inauguration day. So fingers crossed for the next 7 days. But what he has done, and just let's understand what's happened up to now. There are sanctions placed on Russia. There are limits of $60 a barrel for oil exported from Russia. It didn't work. They're finding ways around it. Russia is doing all right. Now, they didn't stop the EU from importing oil from Russia, and Russian oil and gas is still a contributor to the EU, and in fact maybe even to Britain as well. Now, there was a warning in Britain yesterday that there could be a gas shortage in Britain. That's pipe gas, and Ireland gets its gas, most of it, from Moffat in Scotland, in through Larne and on across that way and down, and it runs down by Dundalk and all that. Now, it connects with the Irish supply as well from other sources. But the thing is that a warning was issued, and that's because there was a fault in a Norwegian line as well that's going to shut down that line for a week, some gas plant up in northern Norway. But anyway, Britain issued a gas warning, and that could affect electricity. There could be blackouts. There have been blackouts warned in the UK due to lack of piped gas, essentially. Now, okay, natural gas. So the thing about it is, the last thing the European Union wants at the moment is any more trouble with its gas supply or with its fuel supply. But Biden has come along and he's introduced fresh, stiffer sanctions. Sanctions on shipping, in particular of oil. And there was some joint sanctions between the European Union and the USA and the Western Bloc allies, which have wrought havoc in Europe, not in America. And the incoming President Donald Trump wants Europe to buy nearly all its gas from America. And I think that directive, the due diligence directive and sustainability, I think that'll quietly be let drop. They're hardly going to go have America withdraw from them, supplying them with gas when LPG, liquid gas, brought in by ship over a directive. But we'll see. They don't change easily. Now, the thing about it is, this now makes these sanctions makes it stiffer again, and they're hitting the whole payment system again. Now, remember that the USA is in the process of robbing or stealing $330 billion of Russian investments in America, and they're giving it to the Ukraine. How much of that is transferred already, I don't know. But in addition to that now, these sanctions are already being implemented. Now, that is a very unusual and a very dirty and lousy thing for an outgoing president to hand the incoming president a hand tie, trying to pin him down that he can't change. Now, legally, the President of America, that would be Trump, can rescind and abolish that directive by Biden the day he takes office or at any time. If that was to be contested by the Congress, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives, it takes a two-thirds majority. 66% of them would have to vote, and that's definitely not going to happen because Trump has slight majorities in both houses. At the same time, if Trump immediately rescinds it, he'll sicken all the Democrats, of course. They'll say he's pro-Russian, anti-Ukraine and all that, which he is and which I am too, to a large extent. People don't like that, but there's two sides to that story. But in any event, if Trump goes to rescind it on the day one, there's a danger that the houses would not ratify his nominees. He's nominated a few very controversial people who would be considered tough people. The media call them right wing, of course. But he wants to get them in desperately, and there's a possibility they won't get ratified or endorsed by the houses of the Congress. And one of the sticklers there is Mitch McConnell. Now, Mitch McConnell was the leader of the House, not the House now, the Senate. He was the leader of the Senate. He was the leader of the Republican Party in the Senate, and when the Republican Party had the majority, he was the leader of that institution. And when they had a minority, he was the second up in that. He'd be the second up. But anyway, he's gone. He was replaced by John Thune Toone of South Dakota, who is now the leader of the GOP, the Republicans in the Senate. So McConnell is only an ordinary member, and his term of office is up next year. But McConnell hates Trump. He's effectively a Republican. But he's effectively a Democrat in Republican clothes. He's a rhino, Republican in name only. And he's got more intense and more anti-Trump in recent years. So he still packs a bit of a punch. So the problem that Donald has, if he cuts away this directive, which is what he'd like to do, because it's not his directive, he can make any directive he wants, but the idea of an outgoing president, a lame duck president, a dying kick, doing this is completely unorthodox and unethical. And it's wrong. And even if Trump were to institute sanctions, he would be better to abolish this. If it were me, I'd abolish it, but I'd say I'm reviewing it, and I'm going to bring in my own set of proposals. That's what I do. But it still will get through the House. They can't stop him rescinding it or cutting it down, tearing it up. But they might get thick with him on his appointments. So Trump has to play nice for a while. He has to get out and be seen to be making peace and doing all that, but he has to watch that he gets his people appointed, and it could be easily April till he gets those appointed. So my advice to Trump would be not to do anything at all. Let them do what they want, implement what they want, try implementing it and see how it goes. Now, I am not always agreed with by everybody and all the commentators, but one of the things about this is that it looks like Biden is throwing the EU under a bus again. The EU does not want disruptions to its fuel, because if gas is scarce, you can always get oil and diesel oil. And here in Ireland, when the gas runs down, we have diesel engines on standby. Some of them can't be used, but some can. So the green diesel is the saviour of many a thing. And we'd have blackouts long ago in Ireland were it not for diesel oil. And even on the homes, I have it as a backup. I have the solid fuel, and I have a kerosene heater here. And then I have oil and fireplaces in my other place. And in my workshops, I have blow heaters, space heaters, all run on diesel to bring up the temperature fast and to dry things. So they'll move across between each other. So it's another blow to the EU, but they can't say much about it. Maybe they're just not implemented. I don't know. The EU is importing vast amounts of Russian fuel, and there's a big tussle now about the Russian fuel gas being cut off by Ukraine. Well, that's a big issue at the moment. It's causing major problems. I don't know how they're surviving economically. One thing I do predict is this. Effectively, the insurance for tankers is finished. It used to be that all tankers were above board and had insurance, but that's kind of gone now. The Americans have effectively said you cannot insure, if you're Russian, you cannot insure an oil tanker. And this has scared the wits out of other countries like Indonesia and many other countries. And this is why there's this rush away to get a BRICS currency. The BRICS currency is much talked about, and it will work, but it won't be instant. It will be there, and it will slowly but surely niggle away at the dollar, but it won't abolish it completely. but it's slowly doing that. Now, this carry-on of sanctioning countries will eventually be faced up to by the rest of the world. They're not going to give America the right to do what they like and use sanctions to impose their will on the rest of the world. That's going to die out quite a bit, okay? So what I predict is that there'll be a big increase in ships operating outside of the official circles altogether, Panamanian registered, Liberian registered, and effectively there'll be Russian ships, and there's an awful complex way of shipping. Shipping is very complex. I mean, it's all who you know, what you know, call here and a call there. You want 2 seamen, you want 2 there, yeah, we can give you 1. We're not going to sea for a week. Take those 2 and bring them over and fly them back home. All this kind of thing goes on. So it'll be very hard to track it down. But what I predict is you're going to see a vessel loaded with oil or gas, possibly oil, maybe with 1 million barrels of oil, or maybe 1 million tons of oil. You're going to see one of those shutting down. They have big diesel, heavy oil diesel engines, 2-stroke, with 33 and 4 cylinders. And you can stop them and take out the cylinder and fix them without removing the engine. You only remove the cylinder. The engines will be the height of the GPO in Dublin. You have to go up on them with a lift, a hoist, and a ladder. So I think you're going to see ships getting stuck. And they'll be drifting into banks and into land banks and drifting into islands and tugs pulling them here and there. And if we'll say it happens, we'll say maybe off the Irish coast, who's going to own the oil? If they pull it into Cork Harbour, what they're going to do with the oil? So you're going to see a bit of mayhem with shipping, big time. And let's hope that one of them doesn't sink. For if a big ship like that sinks, you know, you can see the pollution risk yourself. So that's the story there on that. So we'll just leave it at that then with the Ukraine war. Be aware, the thing to watch for now is what Biden does. It may be the last kick of a dying horse. It may be, but it still has a certain amount of power. Now, maybe they just won't implement and they'll drag it out a bit and all of this. The Americans on what they call the neocons, they're the Democratic Party and part of the Republican Party. They do not want Russia to gain power. They do not want Putin in power. They want to grab the Ukraine, you know all of that, and they're losing. And there must be consternation with them because they're not that clever, or they'd adopt a more intelligent stance. So we'll see what happens, but that's the thing to watch for. What Trump is going to do, he's caught between getting his people ratified, or whatever the word is, endorsed by the Congress, or not getting them endorsed. And if one of them is refused through, and it's not easy for them to block it, still it's problems he doesn't want. My advice to him would be just tip along nicely, delay them every way you can, get a few months between inauguration and government, get Biden out of the way, get his crowd out of the way, and then slowly but surely decide what to do about this. And I'd say it could be part of negotiations with Putin. But Trump won't want a Biden directive to be part of the negotiations. He'll want to make his own. I would wait a month or more. I would scrap it, just scrap it. Let them do what they like. But I'd introduce something else that would be an excuse for scrapping it, and let them belt away. But as time goes on, and don't forget, Trump has only 4.25 years. He's only 4 years from next Monday week. As time goes on, he'll manage to push the neocons and the Bidens and them out, and they are hurting big time. They are very, very sore, and very, very sore over Trump getting in. And this is where we have to, why we like him and why I like him, because when he's not among them, and we know he's not them, it's well worth keeping him in power. People would say, oh, he's just the same as the rest. That's our cheap Teddy by talk. He's not the same as the rest. Oh, look what he done here, and look what he done there. There was some fella posted on one of my videos, oh, all policemen are liars. That is a total and utter sign of a person whose life is a misery to them. They can't see a method in anything, and you can't see a method in politics, and the method that Trump is using, and to underscore and to destroy the neoconservatives which are the same as the British, the European, and the Irish governments, which are good for no person. So that's the story there. I'm just bringing it to your attention, and 14 minutes, how this works, how it works. That's the big thing. It's a dirty act to tie a president's hand, an incoming president's hand, but this is, you wouldn't expect anything from a pig but a grunt. We'll see you back soon. Thank you.